So, hey guys, sorry, I know it's been forever since I actually posted a vlog, and I'm here today to tell you pretty much what's happened since then. Um, I wind up deciding to try to buy a house shortly before I decided to do surgery. I don't know if I ever said that or not, but I decided to try to buy a house shortly before surgery. So, pretty much like the day before surgery, I put a bid in on a new house. And then it was, I think, a day or so after I got out of the hospital, they decided to say, hey, guess what? Your bid's been accepted. And it was kind of like I had to rush through and I had to do everything to take and make sure that I had everything in line to take and buy this house. And it's kind of like while I'm going through the recovery process, I'm going through the pain and suffering of buying a house. And it was kind of like, it was a whole new experience for me. I've never been through something like that. And honestly, it felt like how these banks and these lenders were going through my life. It felt like I was going through pretty much a gynecologist exam. So anyway, first off, whenever I got out of the surgery and I woke up from surgery, I immediately regretted getting surgery. And it's not because I'm just like, oh, I totally shouldn't have done surgery. I could have done this by myself. No, it's because you are in that much pain. Whenever I tell you you're gonna be in pain, you're gonna be in pain. I mean, it was so miserable. And it's not like how you would usually wake up from a surgery or something like that, where you're kind of like, oh, I'm just a little sore. No, this is freaking pain. And it's like they fill your stomach up with gas to inflate it to make sure that you have no leaks after they take and they staple up your stomach. And it was so much gas pain. It was like the most intense gas pain that you could ever take and really suffer with. And it's like, of course, I am still that kind of jerk that as soon as I wake up, I'm kind of like, let's get going. And it was pretty much as soon as I woke up, I was still trying to get up and walk around. And it was like the sucky part is that most times when you're waking up and you're in recovery, they let your spouse come back with you and pretty much stay with you until you're ready to go up to your room. Not with this. My husband was only allowed to come back and sit with me for maybe about 15 to 20 minutes, and then he had to go back in the waiting room. And then what would happen is that he'd have to wait like another half hour, an hour before he could come back again. So it was like, okay. And they took forever to get our room. And it was like, it took so long. I think we were in recovery for maybe about 4 or 5 hours. So it's like, I was just looking forward to going to our room so we could just, do whatever we need to do, entertain ourselves, and just not have to worry about shit. Well, what happened is that my phone wound up dying, and nobody bothered to charge my phone while I'm in surgery. So it's like, couldn't get on, couldn't say anything, couldn't do anything. I had to pretty much wait until I got to my room to charge my phone, which I had my phone charger packed up, but nobody bothered to charge my phone. So it was like I had no source of entertainment, and it was like the person who did the surgery with me, she's across the room, and she's just as miserable as I am and trying to sleep as often as she can. And it's like me, I'm sitting there trying to get up, even though it's immense pain. It's so intense. And I'm just getting up and going, okay, let me get this walking. And it's like, because I'm a firm believer that the faster you get up and the faster you start moving, the faster you'll start recovering and the faster you'll start feeling better. So I do recommend that if you're going to go through this process after surgery, even if you're miserable, as soon as you can start really moving your feet and you can feel your feet and your legs, I suggest getting up and walking around. You're going to be miserable, but you got to get up and walk around. So even though it's like I'm getting up, I'm moving around, and it's like I felt so sick and so nauseous, and I'm just thinking in my head, oh God, I'm gonna puke. And the thing is that you can't puke because there's nothing in your stomach to take an upchuck. So I mean, it's like you feel like you're there, but it's not gonna happen. And it's not even really necessarily a dry heave. It's just kind of that that thing in the back of your throat, like right before you throw up. That's kind of what you get. And then you get a little bit of the watery mouth, but nothing comes up. It's not even the, it's just kind of like it's there, you know, and it's like, okay, I just gotta keep moving. I just gotta keep moving. And I was just determined that I wasn't gonna take and I wasn't gonna be stuck to a bed the entire time. And it was when we finally got to our room, I was a huge motivator. I'd like to pretend I was for the person who went through this surgery and did this with me, because I was like, let's go. And she was miserable. I'm pretty sure I drove her nuts, because she's just, get what? No, I'm not getting up. And it's like, as soon as I got up, then she would take and be like, ugh, fine, I'm gonna get up too. So she started getting up and she started moving around, and we were pretty adamant about getting up and walking. So it's like, made sure that we did that, because the thing that they want you to do, they want you to get up immediately and start walking around, because you've got so much gas that the more you move around and the more you walk, you're gonna go bleh, and you're gonna start burping everything up, and eventually they want you to pass gas. But, you know, for me, that took probably about 3 or 4 days after surgery to take and get that kind of function going. And I'm sorry, this is going to be the TMI zone, but pooping, you're probably not going to do that until probably about a week, maybe a little longer after surgery. And it was then during recovery when I was actually home. It was, you know, I went to my mom's, and it was, she kind of kept giving me food, and it was kind of like, or not food, but broth, and then drinks. And she goes, here, you got to do this, here, you got to do that, here, you got to do this. And I'm like, okay. So it was, but she's just a mom. She's just trying to help you. And it's like, you know, I was pretty exhausted, and anesthesia can last in your system for up to 2 weeks. So you're kind of be groggy for those 2 weeks. But it was, I had my protein shakes, and I was taking my protein shakes relatively well. I was taking my protein shakes with no issue. And then I was kind of like, okay, this is going to be easy. So, I mean, I was getting my protein in, I was getting my fluids in, and I was doing it in the first week, and I'm like, yes, I got this. And 2 weeks out, then it happened. And I don't know why it happened, but it happened. All of a sudden, I started getting what is called dumping syndrome for my protein shakes. And it was because the Premier Protein Shake, and I know I showed you guys it, and it's this little ready-made, so awesome, so cool, great little thing. And my Premier Protein Shake, I couldn't tolerate it anymore. I don't know if it was the sugar alcohol in it, I don't know if it's the protein itself, but I could no longer drink my Premier Protein Shakes. And it's kind of like, I can't do this, I can't do this. And it's like, then my protein had to either come from my food sources, or I had to find another protein. So then I went to a shake, or powder mix. So I got my powder mix, and that lasted for about 4 days. And then I couldn't tolerate the powder mixes anymore. And I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do? How am I going to get my protein in? I'm going to lose my hair. I'm going to get, you know, all funky looking. So then it was, I wound up getting something called IsoPure. And actually, you know, I have a bottle of what I started getting back here that I can show you. So they have something called IsoPure, which is pretty much what this is, but this is actually the Vitamin World brand. Now this is BodyTech IsoTech 42. Now there's 42 grams of protein in this, okay? Now when I first bought this, I was perfect. I had no issues whatsoever, and it was like, oh, it even tastes good. I got no problems. Go me! So about a week and a half into drinking something like this, I started noticing I'm starting to get the dumping syndrome again. I started getting nauseous, I started getting hot flashes, I started getting sweats, and it was like nothing would help that subside. I mean, it took probably about an hour and a half for it to subside. And then something like this, you know, which if you could tolerate it, should only take you maybe about 30 minutes to an hour, even after surgery, to drink. Me, this was probably taking me about 4 hours to drink. And it's not all of my protein that I needed. So then it was like I started not being able to tolerate it. So then what I had to do is I had to start filling up half of it with water and watering it down. So that means that a whole bottle of this that's still taking me forever to drink, I was only getting half my protein intake from it. So then it was talking to my doctor, sitting there telling my doctor what was going on. She was pretty much like, okay, well, you got to get more protein-enriched foods, you know, eggs. Okay, well, that's fine, but you can only eat about maybe 3 or 4 bites of eggs. So, and that's scrambled eggs. And it's like, I can't eat a whole egg by myself anymore. And then it's like, okay, well, I'll get pot roast, because like a lot of my dinners were like crock pot dinners. Whenever I was working, just throw something in the crock pot, come home, and we'll have crock pot dinners. And it was like, okay, couldn't do beef yet, because usually you can't take and you can't break down beef and digest beef until you're about 6 months into your surgery. So it was, couldn't really do that. And then it's like, okay, well, I can do pork. And it was like, you're still only getting maybe 3 or 4 bites in. And the problem is that you're not getting your protein. And it's kind of like, shit, what do I do? And it's a lot of stress, because it's like, it's really hard to eat. And it's like, then I even had the canned chicken. Well, it was like the canned chicken was still hard. So it's like, you're really trying to balance out what you can actually eat versus what you can actually eat. Now, at this point in time, I'm actually a lot better. And I'll tell you, what I do is, I've got a 1-year-old daughter. I get this, because this is basically her plate. And it's like, I do maybe about 6 pieces of whatever meat it is, and it's cut up basically the same way I would cut up my daughter's food. So yeah. And then it's like, you know, I'll get my little green vegetable like right here, and that's usually maybe just a spoon, about that size of vegetables. And then it's like, if I really, really feel like I can do it, maybe I'll get about half of this spoon full of whatever starch I make, whether it would be potatoes or maybe a little bit of macaroni and cheese. But I wouldn't suggest that, because that's going to fill you up. And then you're not going to be able to take and do those 6, 7 pieces of meat that you have. And it's like, I talked to my doctor about it, and she said, well, I want you to eat with the baby spoon or with the kid fork. And it's kind of like, okay, that's awesome. And it was my puree phase, you know, which was supposed to last probably about 4 to 5 weeks. When I did the pureed phase, it was pretty much me trying to get my protein in my protein powder or my protein shake, and, you know, doing some yogurt. Well, I can't tolerate dairy anymore for some reason. I never had an issue with dairy before, but now I can't tolerate dairy. So I'm kind of like, okay, this is awesome. So it's really just balancing everything out. And eventually you'll take and you'll figure out what you need to do to get this done. But I'm seeing I'm coming up on 14 minutes. So I had my surgery in June, and right now my weight loss is at 53 pounds. I've lost 53 pounds in 3 months. So I think that's really awesome. My doctor was only anticipating that I would lose about 30 pounds. So I'm ahead of the curve. But if you're a shorter person, she pretty much told me that you're gonna want to make sure that you can lose everything you possibly can in the 18 months that you first get it done, or else you could have a really hard time at doing it. I will try to give you guys another update. I can't make any promises when, but I will try. And I will talk about, hopefully, hair loss and all the fun-filled vitamins that you're still supposed to be taking. But anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in, if you're tuning in. If not, I won't know the difference. But anyway,